When the Europeans first arrived in this part of North America, they were greeted by the First Nations peoples. I don't call them Indians, but the Europeans did, only because they thought they landed in India. That was before GPSs were invented. And neither the concept of private property in North America. I would like to start by saying I recognize the sovereignty of the First Nations people as the land's first stewards. I also recognize that through connecting with and honoring the spirit of the land, that First Nations governance strategies remain effective and appropriate. From the very start, First Nations land governance strategies were considerably different than the Europeans. Without getting into a lot of details, let's say that the concept of all land belonging to someone differs greatly from camp on my land and get shot. I'd like to start by asking you to familiarize yourself with the trespass laws in your province, state, or country. Don't ask your daddy, because few people, especially landowners, really are familiar with trespass and the rights of all citizens. I stealth camp. For those unfamiliar with stealth camping, it is staying overnight on unfenced, non-agricultural land not signed for trespass, without a fire or cooking, using leave no trace principles. It should not be confused with wild camping or squatting. It is also not sleeping in your car or van in the Walmart parking lot. It's not homelessness. I stealth camp out of necessity when on biking trips. It's often difficult to find a campground that isn't 20 miles out of the way, up a hill, into the headwind. And even when you get there, you're disturbed by people running generators to keep their air conditioning and freezer working in their house on wheels. That's not camping either. Now here's what the law says about trespass as an offense, and I quote, "Every person who is not acting under a right or authority conferred by law and who, without the express permission of the occupier, the proof of which rests on the defendant, enters on premises when entry is prohibited under this act, or engages in an activity on the premises when the activity is prohibited under this act, or does not leave the premises immediately after he or she is directed to do so by the occupier of the premises, or a person authorized by the occupier, is guilty of an offense." Now, since I've researched this information where I live on trespass, we'll use that. Please do not post that where you live you can shoot trespassers on sight. That's Hollywood fiction, and you're not Rambo. Sadly, there are places in this world filled with ignorant, hateful people. Don't stealth camp in those places. There are several misconceptions about trespass, such as, I'm on someone's land without permission, so I must be trespassing. Not always true. If you don't have any signs, fences, buildings, or other markings indicating trespass, then how could you possibly know? If you tell me I'm on private property and I must leave, I'm still not trespassing. It's when I refuse to leave. That's when it becomes trespass. The other thing is, some people think you don't need a sign to prove trespass. There is something called implied permission. If there are no buildings, the land is open, unmarked, there are trails. If it is not fenced and is non-agricultural land, someone may have your implied permission. Also, signs that say, for instance, no fishing, may imply that the owner is allowing other activities on his or her land. Another thing that people get wrong too is I have the right to use deadly force to defend my land. In some places, homeowners can use deadly force against someone who is or has broken into their house or is threatening them in some way, as we have recently seen. Shooting an unarmed person will lead to litigation and often criminal charges. Stealth campers are not thieves. They are not armed, and they will gladly leave when you ask them to. Now, earlier I mentioned necessity, and I quote, "A defense asserted by a criminal or civil defendant that he or she had no other choice but to break the law. The necessity defense has long been recognized in common law and has also been made part of most states' statutory law. Although no federal statute acknowledges a defense, the Supreme Court has recognized it as part of the common law." The defense rationale behind the necessity defense is that sometimes, in a particular situation, a technical breach of the law is more advantageous to society than the consequence of strict adherence to the law. The defense is often used successfully in cases that involve trespass on property, unquote. If you're interested in stealth camping, please watch my videos. You can find a complete list at www.stealthcamping.ca/videos.html. And one last thing. We are now at the end of this video. This means you watch the whole thing and hopefully you understand the concepts. If you want to leave a comment, please help me trap the trolls. Please leave a comment by first typing at the beginning of the message the month and your favorite color, such as January blue. That way we know which of the commenters have actually watched this video and which ones are the trolls who just make uninformed comments. Remember, trap a troll. Make the internet a better place. Thanks for watching.